thanks to the Brewery Fresh Carlton Draft. Tonight's next guest was going to be a very, very good footballer for the Melbourne Football Club. He was anyway before knees cutting down. He went on to be a very fine coach for the Fremantle Dockers. Please make him welcome, Mr. Chris Connolly, everybody. Mate, thanks for coming on the show. Lovely to see you.
Thanks for the invite.
No, it's good to have you. You were a very fine, but super junior, one of the most talented juniors in the country. Then you get to Melbourne. Knees get you later in your career. Before that, as we're going to roll the highlights and people can judge for themselves what a player you were one of the finest small men in the competition. How would you have described yourself?
A player who's got better with time. I'll come back on the show in 10 years' time. So, look, I was a competitor. And there's a lot of good players around at that time, and it was great to be a part of it, part of the whole AFL industry.
Long sleeveman.
At times, got a bit cold in the Golden Valley when I played for Sheffield United, so I got used to the long sleeves. And look, we used to train on the MCG, coached by Ron Barassi in my first year. Calvin Templeton and Peter Moore had come over in '83. And it was a great time footy. Robbie Flower, one of the greatest players you'll ever see, a great leader at our club. And we used to have fun back in those days, Andy. We weren't as professional. There was a lot of social activity.
Yes.
We trained hard.
Yes.
We played hard on and off the field. It was great fun.
Chris, did you ever kick on your right foot? We searched for...
It's a silky left foot.
We couldn't find one right foot kick from you.
Well, I did. I think I could kick with my right foot. You know, that was... I wasn't quick, Andy, so I had to kind of be skillful, if you like, and try and get an advantage in that way.
Which you were.
You were dropped in at the deep end. You played in your very first game. You played with Crackers Keenan, Mark Jackson and Tiger Croswell. There's some big names.
Well, they are, and they're huge names. And our team meetings on a Thursday night were very much like this show, if you like. And they were characters, make no bones about it. And I always say with Tiger Croswell, he's one of the greatest players ever. I don't think he knew my name. I'd come through the under-19s, played in the seniors. Tiger used to call everyone Tiger. Here, Tiger, Tiger, give it here, Tiger, come over here, Tiger. That's why his nickname was Tiger. He didn't know my name. But he did handball the ball to me to kick my first goal in AFL. Forever grateful. The only time he spoke to the young players, he got us all, he said, Tiger, 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 come over here. He said, I'm retiring at the end of the year. He said, all your contracts will go up by $5,000. That was the only meaningful conversation Tiger Croswell had. And I've got to say, I love Mark Jackson. Can I
ask you, I want to specifically talk about the big characters of the game, but Mark Jackson, what was it like running around next to the biggest nutbag to ever take a field? I mean that in a nice... Look at that! What are you thinking? What are you doing?
Misunderstood, Mick. Misunderstood. He had a great record for kicking
He was
goals.
a good footballer.
He trained hard. Now, this is my take on Mark Jackson. He thought everyone was against him. That's what motivated him.
Yep.
And he'd come to training early, do all his practice. But when we trained as a team, he felt that the team training didn't help the way he played. So he would hide behind the goalpost and not join in training, or he'd run around trying to belt guys. Now, in the end, that made him go through 4 different clubs.
Yeah, that's not going to help. That's right.
But that was how he met. Now, I've got to say this, Andy. All the great coaches were in the 1980s, and when Mark Jackson said he wasn't coached to play his specific role, he's right. We did nothing to help full forwards. It was all circle work. You know, mix it up, go back the other way, run and
hard
kick.
to help the full forward when he's hiding behind the goalpost. You know what I mean? There's only so much you can do.
Chris, we're just getting a message from the control booth. If you could lift the energy a bit. Now, Chris, some magnificent names, and you mentioned Barassi before. What made Ron Barassi, your first coach, what made him so great?
Ron Barassi was a cross between Don Bradman, Elvis Presley and Michael Jordan.
Jeez.
All wrapped up in one. There's never going to be another Ron Barassi.
Yeah.
You've got to win 6 premierships for a start.
Yep.
You've got to coach a club to their first one and another one, and then, you know, transfer to a great club like Carlton to win 2. Life member at 4 AFL clubs. Look, he's hard. I remember training one day and we had 4 of us were sprinting, and I won the race, but I slowed down at the end. He said, come here, Chris. He said, how would it be if you cost Australia a gold medal slowing down like that? He said, run 20 laps. I did 20 laps of the MCG, but he was always trying to lift the bar. He was always trying to get you thinking. He was always challenging you and pushing you. But what you knew about Ron Barassi is off the field, he really loved you and wanted you to become the best person and player you could be.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Ron Barassi who played under him.
Well, he sounds like, you know, we only know from hearing the stories about what a wonderful motivator he was, but he was also a bit of a fashion plate too, Chris, and you would have seen that sort of stuff. Imagine, ever get a spray from Ron while he was wearing his bow tie?
When he got really animated and started spinning?
Look,
What's going on there?
He was innovative on all fronts.
Yeah.
And look, we'd have a bit of a crack, but never in front of him, Mick. We're not. But he used to test the boundaries on a lot of fronts. He's a very innovative coach.
Absolutely.
That's what made him great as much as anything.
Well, imagine getting a spray, with bow ties being up, and imagine getting a spray from Ron when he was wearing this number here, by the way. Look at that. He looks like Freddie Mercury's older brother. Now, look at you. That's you on the left, Chris. You were there for that.
Yeah.
Do you remember what were you thinking when you saw Ron wearing that?
You look good. You look good. We don't start trying to wear white gear around.
Tom Landry. You remember the blokes he brought over?
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, that's right.
Everyone wanted to meet Ron Barassi when they came to town, Andy, and they all came down to Melbourne. And look, Ron gave as much as he could to everyone in the community. He did as much as he could.
You talk about being innovative. After your second game, he made you play a game during the week, didn't he?
Look, it is true. It's unbelievable when you think about it. That my second game against Footscray, and look, Ron was trying to help everyone. He was trying to help the prison system. I mean, you're not going to believe this, right? And we were playing on the Sunday morning after my second game. We're going to play the Pentridge prisoners. So we're at the front of Pentridge. It's unbelievable. So we get kind of
no sling tackles that day.
So we go in. Jika's just been built on the oval, on this old oval, under a tree. There's a guy like Angry Anderson, the coach, going, they got plenty of skill, but they got no guts. So right then I thought, I'm going nowhere near the ball in this game. Now, the other thing, Ron played in the game. Ron got a free kick. Dale Dixon led. Dale Dixon played for Melbourne. Brisbane was the CEO of the Surfers Paradise Council for years. And he's lollipopped it up. He's lollipopped it up with prisoners who think we've got no guts. And he's the coach, Andy. You've got to sit under that ball. Dale Dixon got knocked out and carried off on a stretcher at Pentridge in a game. I was fine, Andy. I went nowhere near the ball. I was talking to this guy I'm on in the forward pocket about Durrangol because I come from Shepparton. He said, yeah, I used to go there. He said, I said, well, how come you're still not there? It's, you know. He said, I tried to escape. I said, how come? He said, when you was in for as long as me, it doesn't matter. The next ball is definitely yours.
Is it true?
Tell you what, Robbie Flower would have got a pretty tough time.
Robbie didn't play. Jared Healy didn't. Anyone who was any good didn't play. And they nearly knocked us off, Mick, but there was a few players. Des Odawo, become a great South Australian, played for Melbourne. He wanted to break into the team. He dominated the game. We won by about a point. We played in Pentridge against mass murderers. Now, I don't know whether they were or not, but we've seen the movies. It's frightful.
Here's what I heard. The full forward for Pentridge led out to the flank. He kept leading. He ran out the door and down the street and never came back. True or false? All right.
It's incredible.
Have you got just a quick one on that the Barassi Melbourne era? Have you got a theory as to why it didn't fly?
It did. Because John Northey came and is a great coach, John Northey.
Yep.
And he took a group up to be very competitive for a long time. But all those players came through the Ron Barassi and Ray Jordan era.
Of course they
did. So they had to rebuild the list from scratch, and then it took off, and Melbourne were consistent. Didn't win a premiership, but were in the finals for quite a while under John Norton.
What have you brought in? You brought something in for us. What have you?
Well, we were talking about this. It's got a fair run on this show. This is a hit album, Mick.
This is Come On Demons.
It's Come On Demons. This Pete Sullivan wrote the music. I wrote the words. Jimmy Steins pulled this together.
You wrote the words, and I think you're starting to understand why you're truly on this show. Because apart from being a giant of the game, which you are, we had so much fun watching this clip, and they might do another one, I think. If you win the flag this year, they should update it. This is from the brain of Chris Connolly. It is Come On Demons.
Come on, demons.
Take us to the top.
To the top.
We've got the fire with the desire to win that premiership cup.
Dream, come on, dream. Scream, scream, come on, dream. Dream, this heart beats true. Straight and sweet. Come on, come on, come on, demons.
Wow. Now, Chris, There's a little bit to unpack there. Firstly, let's have a look at your cameo. There's a couple of great moments. Here you are with the spinning ZZ Top style.
That's Greg Healy, Graham Yates and Peter Road.
Here you are leaving a
limo.
Limo.
Jimmy Steins was like Steven Spielberg. He pulled the video together and we had to get people to sponsor it because it was expensive back in those days to do these things.
It doesn't look it.
The limo. It was a tight budget, Mick, but we got there.
Chris, can I ask you this? Like Mick said, you penned the lyrics to that song. What's the musical background that would think that you could do it?
I'm in a group, the Shepparton Red Roosters are all muso. So we've all grown up singing and carrying on. There's a lot of fun back in those days, Sam, you know, and we see Richmond tried to bring it back into the game a bit. And we did a lot of, performances for our supporters to raise money for footy trips, and it kind of extended from that. I was injured during that year. Wendy Stapleton, remember Wendy and the Rockets? Bob Valentine, two of the greatest singers in the history of the world.
I'm agreeing with you. Can I just say this, and I'm asking about your writing process. When you get a bit of, when you get a writer's block, do you just chuck in the word "come on"? Is that I've got another question about the clip. Let's just have a quick look.
Yep.
Who's that, Andy?
Sean White, of course.
Sean White. Why is there an Irishman playing the bagpipes?
Jimmy Steins was like Steven Spielberg thinking outside the square, Mick. I've got to tell you, he pulled this whole thing together. It was a lot of fun.
An enormous contribution to football, and well done. And the Melbourne Football Club's better for that effort that you put together, so well done. Stick around, there's plenty more we want to talk to you about. On the other side of the break, one of the most controversial moments in the 2000s.
Yes.
You were in the middle of this, down in Tasmania. Siren Gate it became known as. We're going to talk to Chris Connolly about that after this.
With 8 or 9 Carlton players all around him on the mark. They're doing a war dance. This is crazy, he says. He shoots for goal. He kicks the goal, and Hawthorn wins the game. Ben Nixon is the hero. Oh, and Chris Connolly, welcome to the coaches'
Chris, amazing day, 2001. Peter Schwab can't coach the team. You take over. I think you were a reserves coach at Hawthorn at the time. You take over 1 game, 1 win. What are your memories of that?
After the siren, if you don't mind.
No, it was a big game. We were fighting for top 4 position against Carlton, and Peter rang up on the Sunday morning. It was a Sunday game at 10 o'clock and said, we've got 1 out.
Yep.
And I said, who's that? And he said, me.
Yep.
He said, but we want you to coach the team. Now, it was a big deal.
Massive.
Because in the coach's box we had Calvin Moore, Gary Buckenara, Donald McDonald. Paul Seaman was the ruck coach, came up to fill my role. I moved into the senior role. David Parkin was the footy manager, one of the greatest people in the history of footy. And they backed us in, and at the end of the day, statistically, I'm the most successful coach in Hawthorn. It wasn't overly convincing, Andy. We were behind all day.
Yeah, no, you got the job
Ben
done.
was fantastic, and Daniel Chick got the ball to Ben, and a lot of pressure on a young player there, but, you know, Ben showed what he was made of and went on and had a sensational career.
Interim coach record, like you said, one for one. Were you ever a chance of getting the senior permanent job?
I was interviewed for it, but I think there was a few people ahead of me.
Well, you went on to coach Fremantle, one of 2 sides that play in the Derby every year, which is one of the great games of the football calendar, and you had front row seats for that. We're going to get to that a little later and talk to you about how important that is, but talk us through what it was like moving to that town and becoming coach in a 2-team town.
Well, we're $8 million in debt and wooden spooners at the time, so we're really beefing up and doing a lot of publicity around our game. So it was a sellout against Collingwood. And Eddie Maguire and Kevin Cheethy couldn't do enough for the Fremantle Football Club to help us build crowds like that when we were a bottom team. And they were fantastic. And we really had to... Ricard was the president, Cameron Swab was the CEO, and we had to start from scratch. We had a bad relationship with the AFL for different reasons. The people before at Freo held the place together.
Yep.
And, you know, we really got going. The players were sensational. We did a lot of publicity. We stepped outside the square doing a lot of things around town. And the guys played hard and the membership went through the roof.
2 years in. 2 years in. So wooden spooners when you come in.
Yeah.
2 years in, you're into the finals.
Yeah.
A couple of years later, you get him into a prelim. What's it like coming into a club? We know what it's like for non-people from that town. Was there a sense that you were always a bit of an outsider over there?
Imagine if there... Well, I was born in New South Wales, so I told them that right from the get-go. Because they do hate Victorians.
I'm not Victorian.
If that's what
I'm
you're
not
alluding
Victorian.
to. But imagine if there was just Essendon and Collingwood here in Melbourne.
Yeah.
It just splits the whole place, and that's what it does.
Yeah.
And that's why Perth and Western Australia is such a footy state, because all the Fremantle supporters watch the Freo team, their team, and then they all watch the West Coast game hoping they lose. They hate each other, Andy, and from a playing point of view, you've really got to hold the players back. So you've got to pull them back rather than try and motivate them to play to the best of their ability on that day. And they're great clashes. And Western Australia is a very proud football state in terms of football, the waffle, some of the greatest players ever. And now Fremantle and West Coast are two of the great clubs in the competition, and it's great for the state. It's a wonderful football state.
It is indeed a great football state. And these are some of the most fiery encounters I've ever seen. This and the showdown, they're both the same. It seems to be state pride on the line.
Yeah, look, there is a lot of respect, but it's a win at all costs. See those colours on those jumpers, Mick? People used to write in and said, Freo can't win because of the colours of the jumper or because of the song or whatever the case may be.
I agree with the song. I'm OK to never hear that again.
Look, this brings out the very best in every single player on the field. So if you want to watch a game apart from your team this weekend, watch the Derby. It doesn't matter where they are on the ladder. You know, the build-up. I used to get interviewed 2 weeks out. They'd say, how's so-and-so going to be up for the Derby? I'm saying, well, we're playing Collingwood this week. I think we'll jump that hurdle. When I first got the job, people had come up and they'd say, Chris, win 2 games, forget the rest.
Yep.
That's what it was like.
Yep.
There's a great hatred, but it's done in a positive way, let's say.
Never let me down. Never let me down.
That's a great
way. It's wonderful to have you on our show. Thanks so much for coming on. No, I'm not wrapping it up. I'm just saying, I'm just acknowledging what I'm sure everyone's watching. Just thinking, it's wonderful to hear you and having a chat, answer our questions, especially with considering Andy's here, because back in 2005 down at Geelong, you weren't as keen to talk to Murray.
Mate, to come back from an embarrassing effort like they did last week, that speaks volumes to these blokes in this group.
Yeah, it is. And here's one. Interview the player.
I will. Just one quick one. Why were you over here? Was it the sun? What was the reason you were on the bench?
Just a bit bad in the last quarter, but it'll fix up. It's a great stadium. Go grab a player, mate.
Good on you, Chris.
You caught me off guard, Andy. You caught me. Usually, senior coaches get tied to a post and have tomatoes thrown at them at the press conference by all of the media. But you were trying to get a few in early in the piece.
You were always very generous with your time with the mob on the other side of the microphone.
Did that take you back to your nightclub days, did it?
What was the scarf for?
It was very cold.
No, it was
cold that day. Cold. It's freezing. It was really cold.
It's a bizarre look.
You love your footy. We know that. We talked about the fact you were coaching Fremantle. While you were coaching Fremantle, I want to talk to you about something. You're still doing this.
It's a Wednesday night, and just like thousands of other WA young footballers, the Adelaide 16s are going through their paces at their weekly training session. From a distance, there's nothing unusual about that, until you take a closer look at the coach, none other than Freo's own Chris Connolly.
That's great, isn't it? The Adelaide under-16s. Why were you doing that while you were coaching Fremantle?
Well, I'd miss the games because we were away every second weekend, or we usually played on a Sunday, and the under-16 played on a Sunday. Mitch Marsh and Brad Shepherd played in that team. My son Michael was coach. My wife Penny was the team manager.
That's great.
It was all in. We got up for the premiership, so I did get some silverware in Perth. People don't understand that, but...
That's great.
But Keith Shepherd was the coach, did a great job, and you can't beat community sport, Andy.
No, it's great.
You cannot. And by the way, it would have been a big thrill for the youngsters down there. They have an AFL senior coach taking training,
beside themselves,
and some of them couldn't hide their feelings.
It's pretty special. There's not many other people, not many other clubs have an AFL coach coaching us. Yeah, it's good.
Do you realise how special it is to have someone like Chris down as your coach?
Preferably I prefer Woosha, but you know.
Tell you what, there's no love lost. Andy, can I say that was Chris Mainwaring? One of the interviewer. One of the greatest Western Australians ever.
Yeah,
never be forgotten.
No, absolutely. You mentioned earlier that promoting in a two-horse town, you sometimes have to think outside the square, go above and beyond. I think this is one of those occasions when you turned up at the KISS concert in Perth on stage to present them with a Freo jumper.
Yeah, look, it was crazy. We were playing at Subiaco against St Kilda. KISS were at the Wacker. We did a deal with the members and the audience. to get in and at the right price.
Yeah.
And we'd lost, so I'm filthy. So they said, look, you've still got to go and give that jumper to the Kiss guys. So we get to the whacker. The manager comes up. He said, Chris, between the 4th and 5th song, you'll be getting up on stage and giving the jumper to Paul Stanley. I said, you're kidding, aren't you? He said, they're professionals, Chris, da-da-da. So anyway, I get up between the 2 songs. I've got the West Coast Eagles people booing me. I've got the Fremantle people booing me because we lost that day. The Kiss fans, I've just wrecked their concert. Can you... Come on.
At any stage, Chris, did you think of just going up to Paul Stanley and going, do you know Come On Demons? Could you do
That's good thinking.
Who would have thought that a topless man wearing makeup wouldn't have been the saddest person on stage?
Chris, we got a segment on this show we love, thanks to Carlton Zero. It's called Rewrite the Rules. We've got a humdinger today, have we?
We're going to pick up this game. You're going to talk us through it when we get there, but let's pick this particular game up down in Tasmania with 8 seconds left on the clock.
So about 40 metres out, they've got to win clear possession here, the Saints. Fremantle need to block them into space. Opportunity for Freo, they left it behind. That was Headland, and the ball is locked in again. And I think the clock will stop again. Saints wanting a free kick.
Just about all that can happen now is a free kick out of this.
So there it is. You think game
it's all
over.
Mick.
Siren's
gone. Siren's gone. We've got a clock in the box.
Okay, so you're leaving the ground, and then when do you notice this is still happening?
Well, as soon as I turned back around, so I thought the only way you get the AFL's attention is to get on the front page of the paper. So we stormed down onto the field and make a big deal. And the players had heard the siren because we have a 2-minute thing we practice, and they were expecting it. And we've made our way out onto the field.
Okay, so as you make your way out onto the field, what are you thinking? What's your plan of attack here?
Cause as much trouble as I can. And right here, the super competitive Lenny Hayes sees me. He thinks the game. He turns into the Exorcist very smartly, Lenny. And it was just crazy.
You heard the siren.
There's a lot on the game.
You heard the siren in the booth, didn't you?
I got a clock.
No, but did you hear the siren?
I don't need to hear the siren. Okay. Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, I do.
Of course I heard the siren.
Of course you did. What, do you remember what Lenny's the nicest bloke in football?
Lenny
He looked
Hayes
like
has
he's
had a
filthy
crack.
with you.
He's telling me to get off the ground, but in between every word there's a swear word. He was threatening. It was bullying, Andy.
So do you know what happens? At what point did you know there was a resolution?
Well, there's no resolution.
Right.
So we just had to... because it was a draw, because Steve Baker kicked the point. So the game's a draw.
The game's a draw.
And we're not happy.
No.
But it was Ben Tarbox, our fitness guy. He got all the players together. We started preparing for next week, as you do. Rick Hart and Cameron Swab took over and started working with the AFL. Adrian Anderson rang up Cameron Swab straight after the game and said, "You're a bit stiff there." Bit stiff! We won the game, Andy.
You did win
How
the
stiff
game.
can you be?
You're very.
If you weren't happy then, how happy were you when you learnt that Stephen Baker had actually been paid a free kick for a push in the back and had a kick after the siren? Like,
They gave him the kick again.
Did you consider standing on the mark?
I'll tell you what, if I got out there, I'm making my way from the boundary here, but...
Did you
Look, you can see all the staff on the ground there, Sam. Like, it's mayhem. It's not on.
No, it's crazy.
Right now, you must be thinking, we're going to lose this game if he kicks this goal. But,
Exactly.
But obviously,
Exactly.
he lives every kid's dream, Stephen Baker, and he kicks a point.
There you go. That draws the game again.
Yeah.
So,
Andy, that 4 points, St Kilda end up just outside the top 4 at the end of the season. Melbourne knocks them off. Grant Thomas gets sacked that night.
Yeah, it's good to see you
There's
let
a
it
lot
go.
riding on these games, Andy.
It's really good
But
to
you got
see
him
you
in
let it go.
You got the 4 point. You got the 4 point. You said that your boss and the CEO went to work and you got... is it fair to... did you feel like there was a bit of a vendetta against you blokes down in Tasmania? Because a month earlier, wasn't there an issue down in Tassie with Fremantle and... Before
Look, I was big on promoting the club, and I didn't like the club being disrespected.
Yep.
So I'd always count how many clips we have at functions and all that and be chasing up the AFL guys. We've ran out of Tasmania and the song didn't get played.
Oh.
So little kind of muscly Greek guy, Noda, he was running the show. I ran into him, I said, "Noda," I said, "you didn't play our song." He said, "It's a shit song." Noda, and you're watching, Noda, I know you are. They're all shit, Andy. Don't start, right? Now, let me say this, right? Richmond, we're from Tigerland. You're from India. Collingwood have got the premierships a cakewalk. They've lost 29 grand finals. Andy, you tell me who's got a shit song and who hasn't.
Carlton's got a great song, Chris. The Carlton song's a great song.
Noda. Well done, mate.
Hey, it's been magnificent to have you on the show. It really has.
Chris.
What are you doing these days? Surely you're doing something in footy these days.
Look, mate of mine, Terry Dillon from AFL, we've got a company, Club Map. We help community clubs get the strategic plan right, operations, raise new revenue, really help give them some energy, get them on the right. There's a modern way to run a community club. Get in contact with us and we'll show you how to go about it. We do clubs all over the country in all different sports. There's our website. We'd love to try and help you. Community clubs are the heart and soul of sport in Australia.
No doubt about that. And they can all do with a hand at the moment. So clubmap.com.au if you're a club that needs a hand. The energy speaks for itself. What a joy it's been to have him on the show. Thanks for coming on the show. Chris Connolly joining us on the show. What an absolute pleasure to have you with us, mate. Don't go anywhere. On the other side of that, the multi up next.